friends in the Stop the War Coalition, the Asian Cultural Forum, and other friends who are here. I'm delighted and honored to be here. And I want to just say that while I will be analyzing this conflict, I'm nowhere connected to the Indian state. In fact, I think they see me as very much part of Indian civil society and international civil society, which I support. So yesterday, we were very relieved that a ceasefire was announced. It was a welcome step because there was a direct military standoff between India and Pakistan, two nuclear armed powers, and it was at a dangerous point of escalation. Now, there were, I think, a conjuncture of 4 reasons for the ceasefire. One was a direct intervention by the Donald Trump administration who put pressure, and that there were talks between the Pakistan and Indian Director Generals of Military Operations, the DGMOs, and there was international pressure. Second, there was this Chinese military technology integrated with Pakistani air defense and Chinese missiles versus India's French and Russian fighter jets, the Rafale and MiGs, and Russian S-400 air defense system, which meant that between this kind of technology, there would only be deaths and no wins. Third conjuncture was that Indian business warned about growth and that soon the economy could be affected. And fourth, the Indian leadership had already got enough brownie points in this 4-day war to get them through the next few state elections. However, the full truth on operations is unclear. Anyway, I'm not going to speak on the tactics and strategy and operations of this operation. However, the immediate reason for this escalation was that on April 22nd, there was a terror attack in Pahalgam in Kashmir. It's a very beautiful area where there were many tourists, and the terrorists appeared through the wooded forests, and they asked that men be separated from women. And they asked the men who were Hindus to come aside, and they executed these 26 Hindu men. So the intent was very clear to polarize and trigger in this part, India's part of Kashmir. So now I analyze the responses to this terror attack at 3 levels. The macro, that is the international. The meso, that is the states, Pakistan and India. Farooq will do Pakistan, I will do India. And the micro, that is the domestic. So for the meso or the state level, I think the context very briefly is important. That one, you have the legacy of British colonial politics of partitions, which formed Pakistan out of British colonial India. And thereafter, the 2 elites which came into being kind of took on many of the post-colonial policies, as it were. They took advantage of their positions in power and they continued with these, didn't think of alternatives. Second, Pakistan's vision of itself as an Islamic state, and therefore the claim that Kashmir, which is a Muslim majority state in India, should fully belong to them. Whereas India feels it's an integral and inseparable part. And so this issue has never been resolved. And therefore, there is this disputed and militarized border. I'm not going to go into step by step of what happened. But in Kashmir, there was an insurgency especially after the 1970s, and the state response, Indian state response, has been one of course, very militarized, human rights violations and oppressions. And therefore, this has just kind of gone up and down, increased, people imprisoned, censorship, all kinds of things, as there is in these kind of areas of insurgencies. Then finally, in 2019, uh, Kashmir, which had a special status and special rights, those status and rights were also removed. And but the last 2 years or so, there has been an oppressive calm. So, kind of the lot of tourists, millions, in fact, and therefore Kashmir kind of slowly, at least the economy going back to normalcy. But Kashmir is a quiet place with a lot of unwritten and unsaid things. So, but after the terror attacks, the Kashmiri people came out in significant numbers to protest the terrorism and killings, and they were genuinely scared of a war. But however, the government of India, of course, sees this as land rather than people. Now, the other back context is that India and Pakistan have fought two conventional wars in 1965 and 71, very bitter. In 71, Pakistan got split and Bangladesh became independent, and they developed what was called, after the Simla Agreement, the line of control, which is 730 miles across Jammu and Kashmir, and dividing it with Pakistan. And then it moves into China, where again India has a disputed border with them, and it's called the line of actual control with them. Since then, there have been several instances of small conflagrations, like Siachen in 1984, and a number of terror attacks which India has faced. For example, 2001, the parliament was attacked. 2007, a train between India and Pakistan, which the then government, wanted to have some kind of relation, that was attacked. So that service of trains stopped. Then 2008, the city of Mumbai was attacked by these terrorists who came in a boat from Karachi. And till this time, the governments of India's position was they would gather as much evidence they could, present it to the international community, but there was no direct kind of response like this one. However, in 2014, we have coming into power a very hyper-nationalist, right-wing, Hindu majoritarian government. And they kind of started shifting the strategy. So two terror attacks after they came into power, 2016 in Uri, where there were surgical strikes, and 2019, where 40 soldiers were killed in a convoy by these terrorists, again, near the border. India carried out one surgical strike into Pakistan, close to Pakistan, in their Pakistan territory, and Pakistan retaliated, but it ended with that one-day strike. So now, what is this state response? We have two states, Pakistan, where the military has fairly direct control in civil and foreign affairs, which they call establishment. I will not go into their response, but I will look at the Indian state, which I've already told you, with this hyper-nationalist majoritarian government. So the response, therefore, at the state level from India first was some very harsh diplomatic steps, withdrawal of, curbing their embassies and stuff, but a hard one in terms of putting the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance, which is, India is a riparian state of the Indus Water. It has 6 major rivers coming out from there. And there has been a negotiated settlement since 1960, where the World Bank is the negotiator, and it was under them. So they put this treaty in abeyance, and then after that, they had this operation, what they called Operation Sindoor. I'll explain that, where they decided to have, have a direct military confrontation with Pakistan, enter Pakistan territory. So 9 strikes on Pakistan, what Indian government and the military said was on military targets and on terrorist infrastructure, but we really don't know where exactly. They said they were only using their air force. And they didn't want to escalate. And the entire Indian opposition, including the communist parties, were in consensus and supported the government. So government had complete support from all forces from within. Only the trade unions and civil society spoke for peace, but their voices were marginalized and in fact curbed. And of course, civilians in this operation, Pakistan, of course, hit back, which Farooq will talk about. And some civilians and soldiers lost lives on both sides. So therefore, then what was the meso or the micro domestic response? So at the domestic response, interestingly, there were two public discourses. One was a muscular military nationalism and jingoism, which came mainly from the mainstream media. Now we know when this kind of jingoism is coming from the mainstream media, it's sanctioned by the government, because the government, on the other hand, monitored dissent and censored all those with alternate views, including closing down, some progressive channels and news sites. The name of the operation itself focused on the widowhood. Of course, there were 26 women who had become widows, so that was called Operation Sindoor, which is a vermilion mark which Indian women, married women, wear on their heads. So it focused this, if you have a name like that, it signifies widowhood, victimhood, the need to protect, the honor signified on bodies of women with a metaphoric use of gender representation. But there was also a parallel discourse which was unusual in this atmosphere, which was not that of jingoism, and that came from the topmost leadership who themselves exercised restraint because they could have used it for political purposes immediately. But the people who were put in front was, of course, the military spokesperson and the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson, who focused continuously on restraint and national unity. In this, interestingly, there was, of course, the disproportionate visibility of women. So the military spokespersons, interestingly, were two women. One was Lieutenant Colonel Sophia Qureshi, a Muslim woman in the Indian army, a fairly well-known, very brave person. And she symbolized really the secularism in the Indian army. And the other was Air Commodore, another woman, Vyomika Singh. So they were constantly the ones who were giving the updates on the military operation. So you can see this kind of showing that Indian women had actually arrived. And the MEA spokesperson who stressed on national unity. But on the other hand, there was also one of the young women who, very young, she in fact was a student of ours who had been widowed, whose husband was in the army. She spoke for peace and respect and dignity of women. And she said to people in her tweet that don't go after Muslims and Kashmiris. And she was badly trolled. But the National Commission of Women came out and said, please respect women during these aggressions and respect this national grief. So overall, there was this kind of parallel discourse going on. And the media, the mainstream media, was just disastrous. So this was the domestic discourse, and I'm not going to go into the military operations, and that's very open that, aircraft were lost or whatever. We really don't know the numbers, and we don't have the official account, which will come later. So at the macro level then, the US, which was neutral between India and Pakistan, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio, He made several phone calls. He said he was on the phone all night to both sides, though Vance said it's none of our business. But this was a time Pakistan wanted the IMF loan. Their pressure succeeded, and there was asking for restraint from the EU. The Saudi and Iranian foreign ministers actually came to India and asked for regional restraint, and so did the others. And China, of course, stood by to ensure Pakistan's sovereignty, and Russia stood by with India. So these are the three levels. And so in conclusion, I would say first, it's a relief, and it was wonderful that there was this de-escalation and ceasefire, which we were asking for. But we do need a long-term political process between the two. And India needs to win over its own citizens in Kashmir, respect their interests and differences, and move on from there. So my call is really for peace, and that the international civil society continues to stand with our trade unions, our social and peace sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Anuradha. I think your elaboration is very clear because it's also involved at both global level and also meso and also the ground level that between the people and two people. Thank you so much. DJ Naya? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, at this point, let us call on our second speaker, Mr. Farooq Tariq from Pakistan. Mr. Buntan has already introduced Mr. Tariq. Mr. Tariq, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I am in Islamabad and was speaking just before attending the webinar in a conference, which also spoke on peace and also for the working class emancipation. So when the news of ceasefire came, we were also at the time in a seminar, which was a peace seminar, and there was sudden collapse when we heard the news that there's a ceasefire. So it was a real relief, as Anuradha ji has just said. It was a relief because it has brought real tension, and people were really worried that what would happen. It was only 3 days that every night there was some incidents in any parts of Pakistan and some parts of India as well, where missiles and drones were sent, and they struck to civilian and military installations. So there was a real sort of fear that it will spread. And we know that the whole world was really terrified of a war between the two nuclear nations. That was the most important thing, that the two had the nuclear weapons, but the two had gone to full-fledged war 2 times after they have gone to declare that they are a nuclear state. So we see that nuclearization did not resulted in deterrent of the conflict or deterrent of the war. It was not a defensive sort of weapon. So we always said that nuclear weapons must be abolished, must be destroyed, because nuclear weapon is not a defensive weapon which will save you from the war. And now India-Pakistan war 2 times, one in 99, Kargil war, and now in 2025, there was again this incident. So nuclearization, we have also started a campaign for denuclearization of the two states, because this has really been a worrying point. Only a fascist, very fascist nature government in India or Pakistan could ever be able to use, and it will be total destruction of the whole planet, of the whole area, particularly when it's been used on cities like Karachi or Mumbai, that will see millions of people losing their life immediately. So, in that respect, the worry of the people were at a high level. I was living near the border of India, Wagah border. It's a very known border, and within 3 days, two times, the drone struck to a place which is very close to me. It's a military place in a park. So most of the military installations in Pakistan are either in the urban areas or in hidden in parks and so on. So this was where they found out, and they tried to hit it. One time they were able to get inside, and four soldiers were injured, and other time it just blasted in the park, and thousands of people gathered immediately. They were not worried that another attack will take place. They were curious what's happening, and then because over 90 drone attacks in one day was carried out by India after their attacks in nine different cities on 7th of May, and the attacks of Indian military were mainly on mosques, and they said that these mosques are based for are the basis for religious terrorists. And the two areas they struck, Muridke and Bahawalpur, these two areas, uh, organizations were involved in religious terrorism in the past, and but now they were not using that places for training the terrorists and so on. So when Pelgam incident happened, within seconds, Indian government and Indian media started blaming Pakistan. Pakistan has carried out. And I would say, for my own experience, that Pakistani government may not be involved in this incident of terrorism where 26 people lost their life. Every single person and organization in Pakistan condemned this terrorist attack. The reason is that military establishment in Pakistan is themselves under attack by Taliban. Since Taliban has come into power in Afghanistan, they have gained tremendous power. They have all the weapons which Americans left when NATO left Afghanistan. So those weapons are now used by those uh, uh, fundamentalists inside Pakistan. So there is a Tehreek Taliban Afghanistan, and there is a Tehreek Taliban Pakistan, and they are holding many areas of Pakistan under their control at present time. And they were attacking the military areas, the police areas, and we know that 24 was the worst year in last 72 years where most of the police and the military lost their life because of the bomb blast or suicidal attacks or direct firing on them by the religious terrorists, which are carrying out the with the similar thinking that they can take over Pakistan as well. So the relationship of Pakistani establishment was at very bad condition when Pelgam started. And who did that incident? There are many independent religious fanatics at this time who are carrying out such activities. Pakistani state has been involved for years and years. After the Saur revolution of Afghanistan in 1978, American imperialism, Saudi Arabia gave a lot of money to these mujahideen, and they became very powerful. And the state was involved in bringing up these bloody terrorists. But when you are bringing up and helping these terrorists, they go out of your control as well. And this has happened now. I think some independent terrorist group on religious basis might have carried out the attack in India, because Pakistani government would gain nothing by carrying out this attack. On the contrary, they got attacked by the Indian government. So they lost their initial sort of uh, whole narration. And when it was clear that Indians are the one who started after Pahalgam incident, then there was some support internationally to Pakistani government as well. And the fear of nuclearization was the main reason that many big countries immediately intervened. The other main reason was the capitalist class, which had a tremendous, which has earned a tremendous wealth, and they have become the world's richest. They are among the top world richest people, particularly from India. They put a lot of pressure on Indian government. Why you are carrying out this one? Because the stock exchange collapsed in Pakistan and India. They were losing billions of rupees every day. Even the IPL, the Indian Premier League cricket league, which thousands and thousands of people were watching, not only in India but also in Pakistan. And Pakistan Super League, which is another cricket league, was also carrying out for the same time. So the both cricket leagues has to be postponed because of the war, and this disappointed millions of people who were watching this. So in this background, when there was pressure of the capitalist class, there was fear of the international powers, and also that Pakistan on the last day was claiming that they have attacked India. I can tell you the main victim during the war is the truth. The both sides were telling lies like anything. The both sides have won the war on the very first day. War has not even started, and they are claiming victory and victory. And the media went crazy. Initially, it was Indian media, then Pakistani media did the same crazy thing. They told every lie. For instance, they said life in Pakistan has disrupted. There's no light. Islamabad is empty. Karachi has been gone. Lahore is nearly taken over. So that sort of things were said in India, and also the same in Pakistan, that we have destroyed all the airfields of India and so on. So this was like a fight of the fanatic TV anchors between themselves, who can tell more lies to the people. And people understand that they are not with them. Actually, this war did not bring the real fear among the Pakistani community, because war has not just started the way 1965 war or 70 war, when there was more ground war. It was more of uh, online war. It was like missiles and drones attacking each other. And I think it was a replica of Israel attack on Gaza. The way Gaza has been attacked, that's how Indian attacked Pakistan. Targeted attack in 9 areas. Then they sent 90 drones, and so did Pakistani retaliation with missiles and so on. And people were really playing with the drone debris whenever they found them, and so on. So the 3 days were, we were trying our best to build a peace movement. We are too small as a left force in Pakistan and also in India. But I'm sorry, the Indian left gave a full scale backing to BJP government, while Pakistani left was mainly independent from the government initiatives, and they did not really said. They always talk about peace, and that's how this when this war stopped, we were all happy and relieved. This war has not ended. Now, the war in other terms will continue, particularly war against the working class. In Pakistan, it's a very bad government who has carried out all the anti-people measures of new liberal agenda, privatization, corporate farming, and so on. So now our struggle will start on a different level, where we will be fighting inside Pakistan, and also the influence of religious fundamentalism, which has become the real challenge for both of the state. Because if the war would have continued, the main beneficiary would have been the religious fundamentalists. And also, American knew if they are not able to stop the war immediately, the Chinese will gain. And China is now in jubilation saying Pakistan has used Chinese made planes, and this is the best market method which Pakistan has done, because they have been able uh, to hit some of the French made planes. So geopolitics played another part, and China supported Pakistan. America apparently said, I don't support anyone, but they were supporting the Indians, and that will continue. But Pakistan can't be just allied with China, because there is a lot of resistance inside the state against that as well. So the things are unfolding at this time, and I am really happy that this webinar, the timely webinar, has been conducted. Thank you.